the walls of Westminster are trembling tonight. What began as whispers in shadowed corridors has erupted into a full-scale mutiny. Keir Starmer, once hailed as the man to restore stability, now finds himself cornered, abandoned, and accused of betrayal by his own party. The no-confidence vote is no longer a threat on the horizon. It is a weapon in hand, aimed directly at his leadership. And as the rebellion grows, the question that grips the nation is chillingly clear. Can Starmer survive, or is this the moment his leadership shatters forever? The crisis unfolding inside Parliament has reached breaking point. Keir Starmer's authority, already under strain, is collapsing under the weight of fury from both his allies and his enemies. For months he positioned himself as the steady leader who could guide Britain out of division, a man determined to prove Labour was ready for government. But tonight, that image has been smashed. The rebellion inside Labour has spread like wildfire, consuming even those MPs who once pledged loyalty. Their anger is not just about politics, it is about trust, about betrayal, and about whether their leader has crossed a line from which he can never return. At the centre of this firestorm is Starmer's controversial decision to pursue a secretive deal with Brussels. To his supporters, it was meant to be a pragmatic reset, a way to rebuild ties with the European Union while maintaining control at home. But to his critics, the deal is nothing short of surrender. Fishing rights extended until 2038, legal oversight returned to European courts, youth mobility schemes revived with little consultation. Concessions that, in the eyes of furious MPs and voters alike, tear at the very heart of Brexit. And the anger this has unleashed is unlike anything Westminster has seen in years. In private meetings, the rebellion has boiled over. Sources reveal that Starmer, under crushing pressure, lashed out at dissenters in a furious outburst, accusing them of treachery, threatening deselection, and demanding silence. Instead of quelling the revolt, his heavy-handed tactics only deepened it. For many MPs, this is no longer about party discipline. It is about survival, their seats, their reputations, and their promises to constituents who believed Brexit meant Britain would finally stand on its own. Starmer's words, meant to intimidate, have been seen as proof that he has lost control. And the rebellion is no longer confined to Labour. Conservative backbenchers, sensing blood in the water, have joined forces with Labour rebels in a rare display of cross-party unity. What was once an internal crisis has become a national uprising. Across Westminster, the mood is explosive. Old rivalries are set aside, replaced by a single demand: Starmer must go. For his critics, this is not simply about punishing a bad decision, it is about striking at a leader they now see as weak, dishonest, and unfit to hold power. Beyond the walls of Parliament, the fury is spreading across the nation. In coastal towns like Hull, Plymouth, and Grimsby, the extension of EU fishing rights has been met with outrage. For fishermen who staked their futures on Brexit, Starmer's concessions feel like betrayal on an epic scale. Their protests are not symbolic. They are raw, furious cries from communities that feel abandoned yet again. In pubs, markets, and workplaces, the same question echoes with bitterness. What was the point of Brexit if our leaders are willing to hand it all back? Nigel Farage and Reform UK have seized the moment with ruthless precision. Farage brands Starmer the ultimate Brexit betrayer, flooding the media with relentless attacks that resonate with voters already disillusioned. In Labour's once solid heartlands, anger is boiling over as lifelong supporters declare their intent to walk away. The sense of betrayal is not just political, it is personal. The very communities Starmer claimed he would protect now accuse him of selling them out to Brussels in exchange for political expediency. Meanwhile, the media has turned the spotlight on Starmer with unrelenting force. Headlines scream of collapse and betrayal. Leaked clips of his explosive outburst behind closed doors dominate news cycles, fueling the perception of a man cracking under pressure. Instead of a strong leader, he now appears cornered, defensive, and desperate. Commentators compare the atmosphere in Westminster to the dying days of past governments, when authority crumbles and every move is interpreted as weakness. The financial world is equally shaken. Business leaders warn that renewed EU oversight could restrict Britain's freedom to strike new trade agreements. Economists raise fears of slowed growth, lost competitiveness, and shaken investor confidence. What was supposed to be a stabilising move has instead created chaos, rattling markets, and deepening uncertainty. And the deeper the crisis runs, the harder it becomes to see how Starmer can recover. Inside Parliament, the no-confidence vote has transformed from a procedural threat into a symbol of revolt. For rebels, it is not simply about removing a leader. It is about drawing a line in the sand, declaring that promises made to the people must be honoured. Starmer's opponents smell blood, and the rebellion shows no sign of slowing. Each passing hour pushes him closer to the edge, as whispers of replacement candidates grow louder and the shadow of collapse looms over his leadership. As the clock ticks down, Britain faces a moment of reckoning. The promises of Brexit, the survival of Labour, and the credibility of its leader now hang in the balance. The rebellion has escaped control, and the pressure on Starmer is suffocating. What began as whispers of discontent has become a full-scale political earthquake. And unless something changes fast, Keir Starmer may soon find his career destroyed, not by his enemies, but by the fury of his own party. The rebellion inside Labour has now entered uncharted territory. What began as scattered dissent among a handful of MPs has grown into a tidal wave that threatens to sweep Keir Starmer from the leadership altogether. The corridors of Westminster are filled with whispers of resignation letters, secret meetings, and alliances forming in the shadows. Starmer's authority, once thought unshakable, is collapsing under the relentless weight of anger and betrayal. His opponents, both inside and outside his party, no longer speak in cautious tones. They speak with open defiance. To them, his time is up, his grip on power already broken, his future measured not in years, but in days, perhaps even hours. In closed-door gatherings, Labour MPs who once stood by his side now describe him as a leader out of touch, a man blinded by arrogance, unwilling to hear the fury in the voices of those he claims to represent. Reports from one particularly tense meeting tell of Starmer slamming his hand on the table, shouting down MPs who dared to challenge him. He branded them traitors, threatened to block their careers, demanded absolute loyalty. But rather than silencing the rebellion, his words ignited it. The image of a calm, pragmatic leader has been replaced with something far darker. A man cracking under pressure, lashing out in desperation as the ground crumbles beneath his feet. The no-confidence vote, now inevitable, has become the rallying cry for a fractured parliament. It is no longer framed as an internal dispute within Labour, but as a defining battle for Britain's future. Labour rebels have joined forces with Conservative MPs and members of Reform UK, creating an unlikely but deadly alliance. Their shared message is simple. Starmer cannot be trusted. Starmer has betrayed Brexit. Starmer must go. Such cross-party revolts are rare in British politics, but when they erupt, they are devastating. The sheer unity of anger has transformed this from a partisan squabble into a national crisis. Outside Westminster, the fury is reaching boiling point. In coastal towns, where fishing was supposed to symbolise the freedom of Brexit, the extension of EU rights has been greeted with raw outrage. Fishermen take to docks waving banners that scream, "Betrayed again," their anger echoing across communities already scarred by economic decline. In Hull and Plymouth, protesters prepare to march, chanting that they have been sold out by a leader they once believed would fight for them. In Grimsby, families gather at the harbour, declaring their livelihoods have been bartered away to Brussels in exchange for nothing. These are not polite demonstrations. These are communities on fire, demanding accountability, refusing to be ignored any longer. Nigel Farage, sensing opportunity, has thrown himself into the fray with relentless energy. Every interview, every headline, every social media post drives the same message home. Keir Starmer has betrayed the very people who trusted him. Reform UK's surge in the polls is proof of how deeply this message resonates. In Labour's crumbling red wall, lifelong supporters speak openly of abandoning the party for good. What once felt unthinkable is now reality. Labour's most loyal heartlands are trembling, their foundations shaken by a rebellion that cuts deeper than party lines. For many, this is no longer politics. It is personal. It is betrayal carved into the very core of their identity as voters who believed Brexit would return control to their hands. Meanwhile, the media continues to circle like vultures over a wounded leader. Each leak, each whispered story of Starmer's temper, each image of rebellion fuels a narrative of collapse. News anchors speak of the endgame. Commentators compare the atmosphere to the dying days of leaders past. Theresa May, Gordon Brown, even Jeremy Corbyn. The sense of inevitability is suffocating. Starmer's attempts to project strength are undermined by his every move. His interviews appear defensive. His statements lack conviction. His promises ring hollow. The more he insists he has control, the more obvious it becomes that control has already slipped away. Even within Labour headquarters, cracks are spreading. Party staffers describe a leadership team consumed by paranoia, lashing out at critics instead of calming the storm. Once loyal MPs now speak openly of replacements, of who might step into the leadership should Starmer fall. The names whispered in the corridors only fuel the chaos, as speculation grows that Labour could face not just a no-confidence vote, but a leadership battle that tears the party apart for years to come. Some warn that if Starmer survives the vote, it will only be by the narrowest margin, leaving him mortally wounded, a leader in name only. Others insist that survival is no longer possible, that his fall is a matter of when, not if. But perhaps most dangerous of all is the anger spreading through the public. For millions of voters, Starmer's deal is not just bad policy, it is a symbol of betrayal. Brexit was meant to restore independence, reclaim sovereignty, return power to the people. To see those promises torn apart behind closed doors has left ordinary citizens feeling deceived, abandoned, and furious. In pubs, markets, and workplaces, the same bitter question is asked again and again. If even Brexit cannot be trusted, then what hope is left? That disillusionment is spreading like wildfire, undermining not only Starmer, but the entire political class. The financial markets, too, sense the instability. Investors warn of uncertainty. Businesses prepare for turbulence. Economists speak of long-term damage to Britain's credibility. What was meant to bring stability has instead unleashed chaos. Starmer's gamble has backfired spectacularly, leaving him trapped in a crisis of his own making. And as the rebellion grows stronger with each passing hour, his options grow fewer. Every concession he makes is seen as weakness. Every attempt at control only fuels more anger. The pressure is crushing, the walls are closing in, and the rebellion is no longer something he can contain. Now, all eyes turn to the no-confidence vote. It is no longer just a test of leadership. It is a national reckoning. The future of Labour, the promises of Brexit, and the trust of the people all hang in the balance. And as the tension builds, one terrifying truth hangs in the air. This may not simply be the end of Keir Starmer's leadership. It may be the moment that reshapes Britain's politics forever. The rebellion has now reached a fever pitch. What began as murmurs of frustration inside Labour has exploded into a full-scale crisis engulfing Westminster. Every hour brings new twists, fresh resignations, leaked confrontations, and growing numbers of MPs ready to turn on their leader. Keir Starmer, once presented as the calm and steady alternative to years of political chaos, now finds himself portrayed as the very embodiment of it. His authority is slipping through his fingers, and the no-confidence vote has become more than just a parliamentary procedure. It has become a battle for the soul of British politics. Inside Labour, loyalty has all but collapsed. MPs who previously defended Starmer on television now quietly distance themselves, refusing to be seen as allies to a leader they believe is finished. Backbenchers are openly plotting replacements, while shadow cabinet members weigh their futures, calculating whether standing by Starmer will doom their own political careers. The whispers of dissent that once lingered in quiet conversations have grown into open defiance. The image of unity Starmer once boasted about has been shattered beyond repair. His critics speak of betrayal, of arrogance, of a man who promised to honour Brexit, but instead delivered its reversal in everything but name. For many MPs, this is not just a disagreement over policy. It is a question of survival, and Starmer has become the threat. The anger is sharpened by the secrecy that surrounded his deal with Brussels. To his opponents, it is proof of contempt, not only for Brexit voters, but for Parliament itself. The backroom negotiations, the hidden concessions, the lack of consultation, all are being branded as acts of betrayal. Starmer's claim that the deal was necessary for stability has been drowned out by the outrage that it represents something far more dangerous. A reversal of sovereignty won through years of bitter struggle. In the eyes of many, it was not a reset, but a surrender, and that narrative has taken hold with deadly force. Meanwhile, the atmosphere in Westminster grows more toxic with every passing day. Starmer's outbursts behind closed doors, once carefully hidden, are now splashed across the headlines. Leaked recordings paint him not as a strong leader, but as a man under siege, lashing out in fury, calling his critics traitors and cowards. Instead of intimidating his opponents, these moments have emboldened them. They see a leader cracking under the weight of rebellion, a man cornered and desperate. The more he shouts, the stronger their resolve becomes. To the public, it paints a devastating picture. A Labour leader unravelling in real time, unable to control even his own party, let alone the country. The rebellion has spilled far beyond Labour's benches. Conservatives, delighted to see their rival consumed by crisis, have joined forces with Labour rebels to ensure the no-confidence vote succeeds. It is an extraordinary alliance born not of shared principles, but of shared outrage and ambition. For the Tories, it is a chance to strike a fatal blow at the man many believed was on the cusp of power. For Labour rebels, it is the last chance to reclaim credibility with voters who feel betrayed. Together, they have created a cross-party revolt that now threatens to topple Starmer in spectacular fashion. Rarely in British politics has Parliament seen such unity and anger, and the result could be devastating for Labour's future. Outside of Westminster, the fury is spreading like wildfire. In Britain's coastal towns, once promised a new dawn of prosperity through Brexit, the extension of EU fishing rights has been received as nothing short of treachery. Fishermen who staked their hopes on freedom from Brussels now see their futures handed away until 2038. Their anger has turned to open revolt, with protests swelling in ports and harbours. Families gather with banners that scream of betrayal, chanting that their livelihoods have been sold out by a leader who promised change but delivered capitulation. For these communities, it is not just a matter of economics. It is a matter of pride, identity, and survival. In the Red Wall, where Labour's grip has already weakened, the sense of betrayal is even more profound. These are voters who gave Labour one final chance, trusting Starmer to respect their Brexit mandate. Now they speak openly of abandoning the party for good. Reform UK's surge in support is no accident. It is the direct result of a growing belief that only Farage and his allies truly defend Brexit. Farage himself has capitalised on the chaos with ruthless precision. Every appearance, every headline, every fiery soundbite hammers home the same message. Starmer has betrayed Britain, and only Reform UK stands for the people. It is a message that cuts deep, and one that Labour cannot easily counter as its own house collapses in rebellion. Meanwhile, the media storm grows ever more ferocious. Newspapers scream of collapse, betrayal, and chaos. Editorials describe Starmer as a man on borrowed time. Television debates speak openly of his downfall, with analysts comparing the current atmosphere to the dying days of Theresa May or Gordon Brown. Once the narrative of failure takes hold, it is almost impossible to escape. And for Starmer, the coverage is merciless. Even neutral outlets report him as weakened, defensive, and damaged beyond repair. The story has become bigger than the details of the deal itself. It is now the story of a leader consumed by his own rebellion, unable to command respect, unable to survive. The financial world has added its own weight to the crisis. Business leaders warn that the uncertainty created by Starmer's deal and the political chaos that followed could damage investor confidence for years. Economists caution that renewed oversight from Brussels may strangle Britain's ability to innovate, limit trade opportunities, and weaken economic sovereignty. Markets, already jittery, react nervously with each new headline of rebellion. Instead of stability, Starmer has delivered turbulence, and the consequences stretch far beyond politics into the livelihoods of millions. And yet, despite the growing storm, Starmer continues to insist he can hold on. His allies argue that the rebellion is exaggerated, that the majority of Labour MPs still stand behind him. But each day, that argument looks weaker. Each leak, each protest, each defection chips away at the idea of authority. Even those who remain silent are no longer seen as loyal. They are seen as calculating, waiting, watching to see whether their leader can survive, or whether they must prepare to replace him. The silence of once trusted allies speaks louder than words. And for Starmer, that silence is damning. As Britain watches this political drama unfold, the stakes grow ever higher. The no-confidence vote looms like a blade above Starmer's head, ready to fall at any moment. For his opponents, it is more than a vote. It is a reckoning. It is a chance to say in the clearest terms that betrayal will not be tolerated, that promises must be kept, that leadership must mean loyalty to the people, not secret deals in closed rooms. And as the rebellion grows stronger, the terrifying question is no longer whether Keir Starmer can survive, but whether his downfall is already unstoppable. The clock is ticking, and Keir Starmer's leadership now hangs by the thinnest of threads. The rebellion that has torn through Labour is no longer a matter of speculation. It is a living, breathing force, fuelled by betrayal, anger, and a determination to bring him down. Inside Parliament, MPs speak not in whispers, but in open defiance. The sense of loyalty that once held Labour together has dissolved completely, replaced by suspicion, bitterness, and the growing belief that Starmer's time is over. Even those who hesitate to act admit privately that the rebellion has reached a point of no return. What began as frustration over policy has transformed into a full-scale insurrection that threatens not only his leadership, but the very future of the Labour Party. Reports from Westminster paint a grim picture. In one explosive confrontation, Starmer is said to have lost control entirely, his voice raised, his anger spilling over as he branded critics as traitors and warned that their political careers would be destroyed. But far from silencing dissent, his fury has only made it stronger. To MPs who once stood with him, these outbursts confirm their worst fears, that their leader is cornered, desperate, and incapable of holding the party together. To the public, the leaks of his rage show not strength, but weakness, a man cracking under unbearable pressure. Every threat he makes only fuels more defiance. Every display of anger only deepens the rebellion. The no confidence vote is now more than just a challenge to his authority. It is a test of survival. The rebellion has built unstoppable momentum, drawing in Conservatives eager to finish him off, Labour backbenchers determined to reclaim credibility, and Reform UK ready to capitalise on the chaos. It is an extraordinary alignment of forces, a coalition born out of fury and betrayal, united by a single goal: to end Keir Starmer's leadership once and for all. For Starmer, the vote represents not just the possibility of defeat, but the certainty of humiliation. Even if he scrapes through by the narrowest margin, he will be left fatally wounded, a leader stripped of authority, rejected by his own MPs, and despised by voters who once placed their trust in him. Beyond Westminster, the fury has reached the streets. In coastal towns, fishermen chant of betrayal, their banners declaring they have been sold out again. In working-class heartlands, Labour supporters, who once saw Starmer as their last hope, now turn their backs in disgust. In pubs and markets, the same bitter refrain echoes. What was the point of Brexit if it could all be handed back to Brussels in secret? For these communities, the rebellion is not a political game. It is a fight for dignity, for sovereignty, for promises made and broken. Their anger is raw, their disillusionment complete, and with each protest, each march, each chant, the pressure on Starmer grows heavier. Nigel Farage has seized the moment with ruthless precision. His message is relentless. Starmer is the ultimate betrayer of Brexit. Reform UK's surge in support is proof that this message is cutting deep, shaking Labour's foundations to their core. Once loyal voters now flirt openly with the idea of abandoning Labour forever. What once seemed unthinkable, a red wall crumbling beyond repair, is now dangerously close to reality. Starmer's collapse is not just a personal downfall. It threatens to redraw the political map of Britain for a generation. The very heartlands Labour relied upon are slipping away, carried by anger and resentment into the arms of its rivals. Meanwhile, the media storm has become overwhelming. Every headline screams of collapse. Every editorial predicts his end. Every leaked story of rage and betrayal fuels the sense that his leadership is unravelling in real time. The comparisons to past leaders are unrelenting. Theresa May, Gordon Brown, even Jeremy Corbyn in his dying days. The atmosphere is suffocating, each moment interpreted as weakness, each attempt to project authority drowned by the noise of rebellion. The narrative has hardened, Starmer is finished, and the only question left is when the final blow will fall. Even financial markets have turned against him. Investor confidence is rattled, economists warn of long-term damage, and business leaders openly question whether Britain can trust a government led by a man consumed by internal chaos. What was meant to bring stability has instead unleashed turmoil, and the consequences stretch far beyond politics into the everyday lives of millions. The collapse of leadership has become a national crisis, leaving Britain adrift, uncertain, and increasingly volatile.